If you're looking for proof of the staying power of a single moment on the American consciousness, look no further than the 1973 Topps football cards. Sure, this set is loaded with Hall of Fame cardboard just like every other issue of the era. And yes, the 1973 issue seems to have more than its fair share of big-name rookie cards. But as you read through this list of the most valuable 1973 Topps football cards, you may just be struck by a common thread that ties many of them together. Stay tuned to find out what that bond is. Prices culled from PSA 8 listings in the PSA Sports Market Report Price Guide. Coming out of Alabama, the scrambling Stabler fell to the Raiders in the second round of the 1968 NFL Draft and spent the next fall in the Continental Football League. He skipped the gridiron altogether in 1969 before returning to Oakland in 1970 to make his debut. Even then, it would take another 2 seasons before Stabler really made his mark. In a 1972 playoff game against the Steelers, Stabler relieved starter Darryl LaMonica and scrambled 30 yards for an apparent game-winning touchdown. See below. Though Oakland lost that game, they had found their quarterback, and Stabler led John Madden's offense for the next 7 seasons, delivering their Super Bowl title in 1976. In the end, the gambler's high-flying style led him to the Hall of Fame. Today, the Stabler rookie sells for about $150 in PSA 8 condition. Sitting on the other sideline during that 1972 playoff game was Pittsburgh running back Franco Harris, just waiting to make history. That season, Harris had wasted little time establishing himself after the Steelers made him their first-round pick out of Penn State. In 14 games, 10 starts, Harris carried the ball 188 times for 1,055 yards to start loosening up defenses for quarterback Terry Bradshaw and to give the Steelers a path to a more deadly air game. Before that could happen, though, the Steelers took the field after another Stabler's long run in that 1972 playoffs game. See above. After Raiders safety Jack Tatum nailed John Fuqua as the halfback tried to haul in Bradshaw's pass, the ball touched seemingly every man on the field until it landed in Harris's outstretched fingers just before it hit the ground. The rookie barreled for a touchdown and the Steelers won thanks to Franco's immaculate reception. It was a signature move that sticks to the man to this day, but he's a Hall of Famer even without it, thanks to 4 Super Bowl rings, more than 14,000 yards from scrimmage, and an even 100 touchdowns. The Harris rookie card goes for around $135 in PSA 8 these days. Culp is a name you don't hear much about, but that tends to happen when you make your hay as a defensive tackle left and nose for Kansas City Chiefs and Houston Oilers in the 1970s. Now don't get me wrong, there were some fine swads among the group, but unless your name started with Dallas or Pittsburgh or you made it to the Super Bowl, fans just didn't know or care much about them those days. Truth be told, though, Culp did make it to the Super Bowl, a 23-7 Chiefs win over the Minnesota Vikings in Super Bowl IV in January 1970. He was also a perennial Pro Bowler who eventually made the Canton cut in 2013. Today, Culp's top rookie card is a $75 card in graded near mint condition. When Harris arrived in Pittsburgh for 1972, he found a former Penn State teammate had warmed the place up for him. Linebacker Jack Ham came out of the second round in 1971 and stepped right into the Steelers' starting lineup. Within 2 years, he was a Pro Bowler, and he made his first All-Pro cut in 1974, the same year Pittsburgh won their first Super Bowl. Ham retired in 1982 with 4 rings and a slew of personal honors, and he growled into Canton in 1988. Today, his rookie card sells for about $60 in PSA 8 condition. When this card was issued, Staubach had followed up his Super Bowl winning season in 1971 with an injury-marred 1972 that saw him appear in just 4 games. Roger was back in the saddle for the Dallas Cowboys in 1973, though, guiding the team to a 10-4 record and restarting his march to the Hall of Fame. Today, this third-year Staubach card is a $50 buy in PSA 8. Shell worked himself up from being the 80th pick in the 1968 NFL Draft to a starting role at left tackle for the fearsome Raiders defense as the 1970 season dawned. 2 seasons later, he witnessed Stabler's scramble and Franco's magic firsthand, and he also contributed mightily to Raiders championships in 1976 and 1980. Along the way, Shell became a Pro Bowler and All-Pro, and he made the Hall of Fame cut in 1989. That fall, he embarked on a 7-year career as an NFL head coach. The man who has done it all, just about, in the NFL, lines up with a $40 rookie card here. It took Youngblood a couple of seasons to break into the Rams starting lineup after they took him in the 20th overall in the 1971 NFL Draft, but he never looked back. From 1973 through 1983, Youngblood started every Rams game at left defense end, then followed that up with 15 more starts in 1984, his last season. He was a 5-time All-Pro who helped Los Angeles to their first Super Bowl berth after the 1979 season. Youngblood's Hall of Fame rookie card is a $40 buy in PSA 8 condition these days. In 1972, Namath had led the NFL in both passing yards and touchdowns. He'd never hit those milestones again, and 1973 would be a down year with only 5 starts. But Broadway Joe still had a couple of big years left in him, even though the Jets didn't, as it turned out. And you know, Broadway Joe is Broadway Joe, so his card always ends up on the list like this. The 1973 Namath is a $40 card in PSA 8 condition. Bradshaw, on the other hand, was still trying to hammer down his stats as the Steelers' go-to guy as 1973 dawned. Despite an 11-3 team record and that amazing, miraculous in fact, playoff performance in 1972, Terry struggled with interceptions and threw for under 2,000 yards in 1972. Bradshaw would lose playing time in 1973 and 1974 to the likes of Terry Hanratty and Joe Gilliam before a Super Bowl victory early in 1975 finally gave him some stability. 3 more titles and a bust in Canton and a successful broadcasting career later, and Bradshaw is a football legend. His 1973 Topps card, showing the former Louisiana Tech signal caller in shakier days, sells for around $40 in slab near mint condition these days. Have you figured out that common thread I mentioned up there in the intro to this piece? No? Well, here's a hint. Dwight Wright was there to witness Franco Harris's immaculate reception against the Raiders in 1972. Dude was also a mainstay at defensive end for the Steel Curtain all through Pittsburgh's championship run, and he was a 4-time Pro Bowler to boot. For all that, White's rookie card pushes $40 in PSA 8 condition. Sensabaugh was the Kansas City Chiefs' 8th-round pick out of Ohio State in 1971, but he managed to work himself into a starting free safety role within a couple of years. Stayed in the NFL through 1977 and picked off 27 balls, returning 2 for touchdowns. Good inspirational stuff, but Sensabaugh makes the cut here by virtue of his status as a Buckeye legend. OSU's all-time leader in interceptions for a career, 22, and a season 9 scores a $30 rookie card on this list. After an All-American career at Michigan, Deerdorf landed with the St. Louis Cardinals in the 2nd round of the 1971 NFL Draft. A year later, he was starting at right tackle, and he stayed there, for the most part, through 1983. A 3-time All-Pro and 1996 Canton inductee, Deerdorf lines up here at about $30 in graded near mint condition.